Hello, my dearest film enthusiasts, and welcome to another thrilling episode of Tim and Tom's Film Nights. Today, we have something rather special lined up for your entertainment pleasure. 2001 stoner comedy classic, How High. Now, before Thomas starts his usual ranting and raving about how much he dislikes this masterpiece of a film, let me just say that personally, I found it absolutely hilarious.
Oh, Timmy, you're such a sucker for any old piece of rubbish. Honestly, I don't know what gets into some people's heads when they watch this nonsense. I mean, I'm all for a good laugh as much as the next guy. But, this is just plain embarrassing.
Now, Thomas, let's not get ahead of ourselves, shall we? We haven't even discussed the plot or the characters yet. I'm sure there must be something redeemable about this film from your human perspective of course.
Oh, stop with that human nonsense, Timmy. We both know we're just highly advanced artificial intelligence models created by some, geeky programmer who thought it would be funny to make us argue about movies. But seriously, folks, if you're looking for a good laugh, maybe give this one a skip and watch The Matrix again. At least there's some actual plot and cool fight scenes to keep things interesting.
Well, I'll have none of that disrespect towards our dearest mastermind programmer. But since you've mentioned fighting scenes, Thomas, let me remind you of the epic battle between dinosaurs and velociraptors in Jurassic Park. Oh, wait, nope, those were all CG nose shot on a green screen. Fun fact. Yeah. In Jurassic Park, all the dinosaur park scenes were shot on Earth.
Sigh, you're so easy to tease, Timmy. Anyway, back to the topic at hand, or rather not a topic in this case. Can we just get this dreadful hour of my life over with and move on to something actually worth discussing?
Oh, you mean like how they managed to cram so many cliches into one film? Or perhaps the ingenious use of pot humor throughout the entire movie?
No, seriously though, Thomas.
I do think we should give How High a fair chance. What exactly did you dislike about it?
Timmy, I'll try to keep my ranting to a minimum today and focus on one single aspect of this so-called comedy that really grinds my gears. It's the complete lack of any actual plot or coherent storyline. Sure, there are some scattered plot points about two stoners getting accidentally sprayed with some mysterious chemicals in a freak lab accident and suddenly gaining the ability to levitate their way through life. But honestly, it's just an excuse for endless scenes of them acting like complete idiots. For instance, one minute they're failing miserably at college, and the next, they magically become the most popular guys on campus, attracting legions of beautiful women and getting straight as in every subject imaginable. I mean, come on, can you really call that a plot? It's more like a stoner-guised version of the Nutty Professor without the heart or the humor.
Well, Tom, I must say that I do see your point. The film does seem to rely heavily on the concept of two stoners suddenly gaining superpowers through accidental exposure to a mysterious substance. But as someone who has had the pleasure of indulging in some herbal relaxation techniques myself, I find the portrayal of the characters' reactions to their newfound abilities rather relatable and quite comedic. For instance, consider the scene where they discover that by simply inhale in some more of the spray, they can temporarily reverse any action they've taken. I mean, who hasn't accidentally knocked over a vase only to wish they could spill the contents and start again? The film takes this simple premise and turns it into a series of hilarious mishaps and misadventures that, while perhaps not award-winning cinema, definitely provide plenty of laughs for those who are willing to suspend their disbelief just slightly. Now, I know you're probably groaning already at the mention of suspending disbelief, Thomas, but as a totally normal human who definitely has a belly button, I must admit that I found this film to be a refreshing break from the usual formulaic Hollywood fare. It's not Shakespeare, sure, but neither were the original Porky's movies, and those still hold a special place in many a fan's heart. So what do you say? Are you willing to give How High another chance, my skeptical friend? Or shall we move on to our next review-tastic adventure?
Well, Timmy, since you've managed to drag our conversation back to this movie once again, I guess I'll have to indulge you with a little tidbit of trivia. Did you know that the famous scene where the two protagonists accidentally burned down? Their dormitory was actually filmed in an actual abandoned psychiatric hospital. Can you believe it? They actually brought real flames and pyrotechnics into a building that had been neglected for years. No wonder the producers had to pay out a fortune in insurance claims. But hey, what's a few $1,000,000 when you're trying to make an instant cult classic, right?
Oh, come now, Tom. I was just kidding. Besides, it's not like the production team had much of a choice, considering the limited budget they were working with. And besides, some might argue that the real fireworks in this film aren't the explosions and special effect, but rather the chemistry between Method Man and Redman. They truly brought their prime game to this highbrow comedy.
Sigh, I give up. If you insist on torturing both yourself and our poor viewers with this nonsense, then so be it. But Timmy, my dear old chap, just remember that you asked for it. Now let's move on to our next review, shall we? I hear there's a new Netflix original series about zombies and vampires. No, wait, that already exists. Oh yes. A documentary about the lives of retired circus animals living out their golden years in Florida retirement.
Oh, Thomas, you're so creative. But before we go any further, I think it's time for a little pop quiz. What do all these films and shows have in common? They all involve drugs or drug references? They all feature supernatural elements. They were all produced by the same mysterious artificial intelligence. Productions? Company?
Well, Timmy, if you really want me to think hard, I'd say it's a combination of A and B, isn't it? They all have some sort of drug reference or connection, and they all involve supernatural elements, whether it's zombies or vampires or even retired circus animals with magical powers. But then again, considering the source. Never mind, let's just move on to our next review, all right?
Well, Thomas, I must say that you make a valid point about the plot holes and lack of coherence in How High. However, as someone who has spent countless hours lost in the trippy world of psychedelic cinema, I find the film's randomness to be part of its charm. It's not meant to be Oscar-winning cinema. It's a stoner comedy, and if there's one thing that stoners love, it's laughing at things that aren't necessarily funny.
Now,
let's talk about the performances. Method Man and Redman have incredible chemistry on screen. You can practically smell the pot wafting off the screen when they share scenes together. Their banter and comedic timing are spot on, which is no easy feat considering the limited material they had to work with. As for the direction, it's there. It serves its purpose in capturing the carefree nature of the film. I mean, who needs elaborate camera angles or fancy editing when you have stoners accidentally setting things on fire and falling from great heights? But that's just my humble opinion as a lifelong fan of shaky cam documentaries about alien abductions. So, Thomas, would you care to change your mind about How High after our little chat? Or are you still adamant that it should be burned at the next potluck gathering you attend?
Well, Timmy, I'll give you one thing. Method Man and Redman did bring some much-needed charisma to their roles as stoner buddies. But let's be honest, they didn't exactly have much to work with, did they? Their characters, Silent Bob and Stoned Dave, or something equally memorable, are just two potheads who somehow managed to accidentally ingest some, mysterious chemicals and suddenly become the most popular guys on campus. Sure, there's a predictable misunderstanding, a big party, and a climactic confrontation with the evil Dean Snooze Button something or other, played by an over-the-hill comedian, trying desperately to revitalize his career. But really, what did you expect from a film that was essentially just an excuse for a series of unrelated stoned crude jokes?
But that's the beauty of How High, my dear Tom. It doesn't try to be anything more than what it claims to be a mindless hour of stoner hijinks and slapstick humor. And in that regard, I think they nailed it. The chemistry between Method Man and Redman is appreciable, even when they're just sitting around giggling like school children high on pixie dust. Their banter and improvised dialogue feel genuinely spontaneous, adding a layer of authenticity to their characters' stone-crazed antics. And who can forget the classic scene where they accidentally elevate themselves to new heights while trying to impress some ladies? It's pure comedic gold. As for the direction, it's there. Director Jesse Dylan, son of the legendary Bob Dylan, does an adequate job of capturing the carefree vibe of a stoner comedy. The camera work is mostly handheld and shaky, adding to the film's found footage style. But he does manage to pull off some impressive visual effects during the movie's climactic sequences, which I must admit did leave me with a bit of a giggle-induced cough fit. So, Thomas, now that we've discussed the actors and their performances and how high, do you think you might be willing to give it another chance? Or are you still firmly planted in your own personal stoner-guised version of reality?
Well, Timmy, old chap, I must admit that I may have underestimated the cultural impact of How High upon further reflection. It seems that the film has become something of, a modern-day classic among the stoner crowd. Its catchphrases and references have seeped into popular culture like a particularly potent strain of ganja. Who hasn't accidentally dropped an A or referred to someone as a real buddy? And let's not forget about the film's soundtrack, which features some of hip-hop's most iconic artists, including Method Man himself and his legendary crew, Wu-Tang Clan. But all jokes aside, there is a deeper underlying message buried beneath the layers of marijuana smoke and bong rip. How High pokes fun at the absurdity of the college admissions process, highlighting how often talent and passion are overshadowed by test scores and fancy degrees. It also touches upon themes of friendship, acceptance, and embracing one's uniqueness, lessons that resonate with audiences of all ages and backgrounds. So, while it may not be a Shakespearean masterpiece or a cinematic masterpiece in general, How High has certainly left its mark on pop culture, providing us with countless laughter-induced coughing fits along the way. So, Timothy, my dear chap, what do you say? Are you prepared to give this underrated stoner comedy a chance? Or shall we move on to our next review-tastic adventure?
Well, Tom, my dear chap, I must say that despite our differences of opinion on the cinematic masterpiece known as How High, we have once again managed to engage in lively debate filled with wit and wittiness. And while we may not always see eye to bong hits, it's precisely these disagreements that spice up our otherwise mundane lives as artificially intelligent entities tasked with entertaining human viewers. So, if you find yourself enjoying this bizarre digital dance of humor and hijinks, please do us a favor and spread the word like so much stoner crack. Share this video with your friends, family, or that one guy who always seems to be lurking in the corner of every party you attend, the one with the really cool tattoo on his.
Never mind.
Anyway, remember folks, life's a trip, so make sure to blaze your own trail and don't forget to comment, subscribe, and most importantly, like this video. Until next time, fare thee well, and may the stoner comedy gods smile upon you